Hi there, my name is Kramer Wetzel. This is for astrofish.net. This is the weekly update for Monday. This is the weekly update that's going to start on Monday, January 26, 2009. Welcome, one and all. In my background, you can see fog. It's a gray sky. It's a gray day. What's happening? We've got this fog. It's on the lake. It's kind of a good day for fishing if you have to know the truth. Largemouth bass are just getting into sort of a pre-spawn mode. But that's not really what this is about. This is about astrology. What I was going to talk about is Mercury being retrograde. Well, we've talked about that enough, I believe. I don't really think we have to go over Mercury being retrograde, but you see the fog? Fog that's in my background. It's been this heavy mist. It rolls in from the coast and it just sort of sits here. And it's sitting on top of us. And it's just such an apt metaphor. I thought it was wonderful, something to work with, a real good visual clues to what's going on. And that's part of what this is really all about. It's about this fog that's on top of everything. Now, if you're here in South Texas, you've seen this fog. If you're not in South Texas, I don't know if you've seen this fog or not. But you've felt a fog like this of some kind, sort of sitting on top of us. We don't really know what to make with this fog. That's Mercury retrograde. That's the stuff that's going on. Venus and Uranus are also, they're close to each other. Not actually a conjunction, but they've been like playing tag with each other for a while now. It adds sort of another element to this. Both of those are, of course, in Pisces. Now, on top of this, we've got Saturn on the opposite side. What's all this going to do? What is the plethora of planets that are in Aquarius? And while we're at it, let's look at the phase of the moon. Now, let's wrap all this stuff up. It's like this fog. You know the fog's going to be lifting. I'm watching. There's a guy who's got a fish on a line over there. I was kind of keeping an eye on him, too. It's watching some of the stuff that's going on and making the most of it. What can we do that's going to be useful for this? By the time you get around to looking at this stuff, by the time you get around to getting a good, clear picture here, what's going to be pretty obvious is the fog will begin to lift some. It's not been quite as thick. I mean, at one point it was like little tendrils of smoke blowing through. It was that thick. It wasn't really rain in as much as it was just like a really heavy atmosphere. It's part of what's been happening. It's part of what this is all about, that kind of heavy atmosphere. That's one of the things that I would look at. Now, we know that this fog will lift eventually. And like everybody, Mercury's not going to be retrograde a whole lot longer. Therein is the hope. And there's going to be a chance to get something done, a chance to start moving ahead and to start moving in the correct direction. The other thing that's going on, and why I thought this fog was such a good metaphor, such an apt metaphor, you can't even see the other side of the lake at this point. The other thing that's really nice about this kind of fog is it gives you a chance to like work through something. The metaphor of the fog's kind of good because what's going to happen is it's going to gradually lift. And by the time the afternoon rolls around, I expect the sun's going to burn through. I don't really think that the sun burns through, but the atmosphere changes and we can see that there's going to be a gradually lifting. And as we go along, Mercury's not going to be retrograde just a whole lot longer. This fog's not going to be on top of us much longer. We've also had a pretty profound, it's an astrological event that I look at and I consider sort of like a trigger point, a turning point. We've had an eclipse pattern that started to unfold. And that eclipse pattern, some of this stuff we're not going to see any real direct results until next August. However, it's a matter of like putting some of the pieces into play and trying to get some of the parts all lined up. Now, for the next week, consider when you go into any kind of a negotiation that it's going to take 2 or 3 times to get the negotiation right. And it doesn't hurt to get it in writing, and it doesn't hurt to get it in writing a second time for everybody to look at it. I think that's going to be real useful at this point. The thing is realize that we are navigating in a little bit of a fog still, and what we want to do is be careful. Doesn't mean that I stop, just means that I slow down a little bit. Unless, of course, you're in South Texas. And what happens in South Texas, we hit one of these cloud banks that's down here on the planet, and what happens is we speed up. Now, that's not the best way to make it through this. slowing down a little bit is going to be kind of useful, and that's what I would look at. Go a little bit slower and realize that we got a fog on top of us, and yes, the fog is going to be lifted eventually, but we're not out of it just yet. Consider this metaphor as a way to look at the rest of the week. Good luck. Y'all have a good week now, you hear?